Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Please comment, subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. Today I'm going to be discussing about how to count the number of blocks in a building. So for this very video I'm going to be using fence so to determine the number of blocks that can be able to occupy a given space. I've already measured the width of the fence and the height of the fence, so I'm going to be using a pillar to pillar for this very explanation. It's going to be from one pillar position to another pillar position, so it's not the whole of the fence. What you have to do is to measure the width of whatever you want to count, then the height of what you want to count. You have to use your measuring tape to take the measurements. The next thing to do is to count the numbers of block for the height, then the numbers of block for the width. Using this very method that I'm about to explain, you don't need to count all the blocks that is present because you cannot be able to do it that very way. But what you do, you have to count the number of blocks. That's what I'm doing now. Number of blocks on the width on one of the coach. So whatever number of blocks that you get for one coach, that would determine the number of blocks that will occupy the very width. Then for the height, then you also count the number of coach. You count from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top. So that's for one line. So you just count one coach. You just count from the top to the bottom. Then the number of coach that you get there, you record it. Then the number of coach that you get on the width by counting the number of blocks that it occupies, that will determine the number of blocks that will take the space for the width. So for this very fence, on the width I got 5 numbers of blocks. Then for the height I got 7 numbers of blocks. So to get the total number of blocks that will occupy this very space of one pillar to the other pillar, after taking my measurements of the width and the height, will now be 7 multiplied by 5. That will give you 35. So that's the total number of blocks that will occupy this very space. The chalking space for this very fence, that's the joint, the space between two blocks, that's the bonding space. The space between it is called the bonding space, or you can also call it the chalking space. That's where mortar is being placed between the two blocks that is being laid. So they use 2 inches here, so they can also use 1 inches. But despite the number of inches that they use in the bonding of the block, it's still okay. You can also use this very formula to determine the numbers of blocks that can occupy a given space. The height of any block is 9 inches, whether it is 5 inches block or 6 inches block or 9 inches block. So the height is always 9 inches of every block. Then the length of every block is a foot and 6 inches. So if I say 9 inches, 9 inches in millimeter is 225 millimeter. Then 6 inches in millimeter is 150 millimeter. So whether it's 6 inches block that is being used, whether it's 9 inches block that is being used, or 5 inches block that is being used, the same result will also be gotten. So you can also get the same results in counting the numbers of blocks that can occupy a space. You can use the same formula to count for the length. You can use the same formula to count for the numbers of blocks that can occupy a space for 6 inches, for 9 inches block, for 5 inches in block. A situation where the building is already plastered, or probably whatever building, or the fence is already plastered, you cannot be able to see the joint, how the block was being laid. So you cannot be able to see visibly because it has already been plastered and it's covered already. So the easiest way to do it is just for you to get the measurement of the width and the measurement of the height. Then once you get the measurement of the width and the height, once you're able to get the measurement of the width and the height, next you have to do, if you can be able to get an existing building that has not been plastered, or a building that has not been plastered, any building that has not been plastered, what you have to do is just take the measurement of the building. Once you are able to take the measurement of the building width, or height, then the measurement, that the numbers of blocks that you got there and the measurement, then I will explain further on how you have to go with it. You just have to get the measurement of the width or height, then the numbers of blocks that you got there, then I will explain that further. So the next thing I have to do now is the counting of the blocks, because we have already used this very formula now. From the formula we have used now is 7, the multiplication of the width and the height. That's for one coach. You measure the number of blocks that you got from one coach of the width, the number of blocks that you got from one coach of the width, then the numbers of measurements, numbers of blocks that is gotten from the height, then you multiply it. So we got 7 times 5, that's 35. So I will explain further on how to go about that. Now I'm going to explain properly on a building that is already plastered, or an existing fence that is already plastered. So there is no way you can be able to determine it. What you do is you take the measurement of the width, then whatever measurement that you get from there, you record it down. Then if you have to look for a building that is already an existing building that has not been plastered. So you just make use of one coach for the line. You take the measurement for the width, then you count the numbers of blocks that is present in that very distance measurement that you took. So what you do after getting the measurement, you now have to work with the plastered one and the unplastered one. So let's say the plastered fence, the measurement for the plastered fence now is 20 feet. Then while the measurement for the fence that has not been plastered is 10 feet. For this very project is 10 feet. So for this one is 10 feet. Then 10 feet multiplied by the number of blocks that I got from this one is that has not been plastered is 5 numbers of blocks. You understand, for a coach and the width. So I got 5 to cross multiply. That is, the width of this very project is 10 feet. If 10 feet gives 5 numbers of blocks, then that's for I'm using this very video to explain. That's if the distance, the space between, the width is 10 feet. So 10 feet is now giving 5 numbers of blocks. So let's relate it with an existing building that has already been plastered. So now let's assume you got 20 feet. That's the width distance. Then 20 feet will give you what? X. So you have to cross multiply. So after cross multiplying, S will give you 10 numbers of blocks. Using this very method, if 10 feet is equal to 5 blocks, 20 feet will be equal to S. So S multiplied by X is the unknown. S multiplied by 10 feet, that will be 10S is equal to 20 feet multiplied by 5 blocks, that's 100. So when you next you have to do is to divide 10 by 100, divide 10 by x. So x will now give you 100 over 10. 10 divided by 100 will give you 10 numbers of blocks. The same method is also used for the height to get the number of blocks that will also be present there. So after getting the number of blocks, the number of coach, number of coach, it becomes coach because we are talking of height. The number of blocks that is present on the height. So after getting it there, you multiply it by that of the width. So after multiplying it, you get the total number of blocks that will be present on the building or fence that has been plastered. So that's the very method to use. So for the video for the unplastered fence that I did, so the width of fence measurement that I measured was 10 feet. Then the height of the fence was 14 feet. The width of 10 feet gave me 5 blocks. Then the width of 14 feet gave me 7 blocks. So width of blocks, formula is width of block multiplied by height of block. So the width of the block produced 5 blocks multiplied by the height of the blocks that it produces 7 blocks. So 5 multiplied by 7 give you 35 number of blocks. So I'm going to explain that of using how to relate plastered fence with unplastered fence. Now I'm using illustration of this my video, which is the width of a plastered fence. Now I'm going to explain with plastered fence that I took. The measurement that I took, the width was 20 feet. Then the height of the plastered fence was 20 feet. So your measurement will definitely vary. It will not be the same with my own. So depending on the measurement that you got. Then the width of plastered fence, definitely, which is 20 feet. Therefore, the width of unplastered fence that I got from my video, which is 10 feet, gave me 5 blocks. Then 10 feet, if 10 feet give me 5 blocks for unplastered fence, now the 20 feet that I'm looking for the plastered fence will give me what? S blocks. So therefore you have to cross multiply 20 multiplied by 5 divided, it will not be divided, multiplied by 5, it will not be divided by 10, it will not be equal to 10 divided by 5 after your cross multiplication, if you know how to do cross multiplication. X therefore will now give you 20 times 5 divided by times 10 divided by 10 multiplied by 10. So you have to cancel out by division method. So after that, so therefore 2 times 5 will now give you 10. So after your division cancelling out, so it will now give you what? 10 number of blocks. You can just use your calculator. 20 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 10, then divide by 100. That will give you 10 blocks. So that's for the width of the plastered fence. Now for the height, I'm going to relate it with the height of my unplastered fence, which is 14 feet. It produced 7 numbers of blocks. Then the height of my plastered fence is 20 feet. Therefore, if 14 feet produce 7 blocks for unplastered fence, 20 feet will produce X blocks for plastered fence. So you have to cross multiply. S will now give you 20 multiplied by 7 divided by 14. So S will now be equal to 140 divided by 14, which will give you 10 blocks for the plastered fence. So therefore the total number of blocks for the plastered fence will therefore we use our initial formula, which is height multiplied by width. That's for the blocks that has been produced. So the height of plastered block multiplied by the width of plaster block that has been produced. So the height of the plaster block, number of blocks that were produced was 10. Then for the width was 10. So 10 multiplied by 10 will give you 100 numbers of blocks for the plastered fence. You understand? So that's why it is very easy.